prepared right from the very start and throughout for highly offensive language, scenes of drug abuse and discussion of violence, which may distress some viewers. In Britain, almost 70,000 people across all communities under the age of 25 now consider themselves to be gang members.
Gangs are real, because I'm out here, in my opinion, man and my jumping out here every day and shoot bodies out here.
In London today, there are said to be up to 4,500 people in close to 250 street gangs.
If you just leave your house, not knowing what you're doing, you're fucked.
Increasingly, gangs recruit younger members as foot soldiers to use in their drug operations.
Drugs is what gets us the money.
Everybody right now wants the money. I'm getting bedded out with the money.
In London in 2017, 25 teenagers were killed as a result of gang-related activity.
They've taken away his life, and it's hard to understand why.
The pattern of road beefs and revenge provide a never-ending cycle of unforgiving violence.
Forgiveness, that's an emotion. We don't deal with emotions.
At the end of the day, I know I'm gonna die if I don't carry my one.
UK gang culture is driven and influenced by the infamous American gangs, the Bloods and the Crips.
People in London, people in Atlanta, people in New York pick up the gang culture of LA.
Where I come from, this shit is how we eat.
Gang culture is now destroying families from every community in the UK.
He wasn't just stabbed once in the heart or stabbed once in the lung. He was butchered.
And perpetrators are left to deal with the consequences of their actions.
I'm trying to fill a void in my life. The remorse, the regret, the guilt.
And to get the inside story from real gang members, we gave them cameras and allowed them to film their own lives, telling us what it's really like on the streets of the UK today.
Always there to be frightened of these roads. As I always say, I'll never fear any man. Make sure a man fears me though, yeah? To walk out of your house with and leave this one. Sharpen the hair. Trust me, I'm trying to change someone down properly, bro.
In the UK, gang violence is on the rise. Bloody turf wars between rival gangs has seen nationwide stabbings increase by 22% in the past year, with some victims as young as 13. Families across the country are grieving. Their loved ones are dying as a result of out-of-control gang warfare. And increasingly, this violence is fueled by a desire for revenge.
You rather see your family buried or see the family one crying because their child been killed. That's gonna hit even harder, because they're gone now. Man knows people that's died in it, and I've seen mothers and dads in it, that pain, get me from. But at the end of the day, you need to know what your youths are doing for a minute. Get me if you don't know what he's doing, raw. And then when he dies, everything comes out at the end of it. That's how it goes, isn't it?
This is the route I drove when I dropped him off that day. I drove around here. And I stopped right here and let him out.
In August 2016, Yemi's 19-year-old son, Andre, was murdered. He was killed by a local gang.
I just drove off, went off to my sister's, and he was outside here just hanging out with the young people, and he was just walking up and down outside these houses. He never moved from here. And the car, when it arrived, came from this side and pulled up right in front of the Food and Wine where he was. And then you can see on the CCTV, his face is like shock horror, and he kind of contemplates what he's going to do, and then he decides to just run.
On the estate where he used to live, Andre had a long-running feud with the Shrubland Boys, the gang who killed him.
He became friends with a young man, but the relationship became bad over a girl that Andre was friends with. And that's kind of how that started, because the boy got upset about Andre being in his business. And then that's when the threats first started to come. The boy started sending all these gun and knife emojis to Andre and saying, you know, I'm going to stab and kill you and I'm going to shoot you. And I remember Andre showing them to me, and like they had a few backwards and forwards arguments, you know, social media. And then that's when the confrontation started. So the first major problem, I got a phone call from Andre and I was asleep and I was like, what's going on? He was like, you need to come now. And I drove up to the spot and I saw him running towards the car, him and his friend. And I said to him, well, I started to drive off, what's going on? And he said his friend had been shot in the face. So I kind of looked behind me and there was this boy in the back of my car with his face pouring of blood. By the middle of that week, they'd come to the house and started smashing my car windows. And then they just started smashing the windows downstairs in the living room. And then the following night, there was a drive-by shooting. They both had on silver helmets and white T-shirts, and the boy had the shotgun sticking out of a rucksack. Even my son was shocked. He couldn't understand why they were shooting and where the guns came from. And he knew he had these back and forth issues with this group of boys, but all of a sudden it had got really serious.
When street feuding and beefs escalate on social media, the consequences can be deadly.
Obviously, it's to make the ops know who done it and where it's coming from, you get me? Obviously, the man them do it just to show them that man ain't playing, you get me? Big fucker set, or niggas know the big wax on the deal.
Lyrics in music videos that taunt rival gangs glamorize the idea of violent turf war.
I got 4 clicks for that movie, I'm trying to do me up 1 juvie. Who's that, what's that, Zone 2 boy, now the Rambo's looking saucy.
The drill group Moscow 17 has a long-running feud with rival gang Zone 2 from Peckham.
Moscow's were known for the stabbings, the older G's them known for the clappings.
Their music videos have inflamed tensions between the two gangs. And in just over 3 months during the summer of 2018, Sadiq Kamara and Raheem Barton, both members of Moscow 17, were murdered. This endless cycle of online beef is fueled by the need for violent revenge.
Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, whatever you want to call it. If my friends got hit or shot, I would have to retaliate straight away, because the way I am is, if one of my friends got hit, I'll go hit the person that hit my friend. There's always going to be retaliation, and we won't sleep until we get our own back. I'm not going to go through the law. No, we have law in the street. This is the street justice. That's how we do it. If you got beef on the road, yeah, you're going to make sure you got your king in it, so you can back your king before him in that. Then, I mean, when you try to touch music, I'm on that path.
So Andre ran down here, and the car chased him. So there was two on foot running along the pavement, armed.
In London in 2016, Yemi's son Andre found himself in a dispute with a local gang called the Shrubland Boys. On the day of his death, he was chased by 4 members of the gang in a planned attack.
And at this point, the car came back round and pulled up over here. And there were more witnesses around here that said they saw him trying to get in that door over there. They had him up against the wall. 2 of them were on him. Witnesses that lived above said that she could hear him screaming. She said, like, she'll never forget that noise of him actually screaming the way that he was screaming. But he still managed to run. They stopped and he still managed to run. There was a blood footprint on this wall where he'd obviously jumped up, and he ended up collapsing there in the grass. Right here. Yeah, right here. He wasn't just stabbed once in the heart or stabbed once in the lung. He was butchered. He was hit numerous times with a pole, stabbed numerous times. One of them was pointing a gun at him and saying, "You deserve this." And they were just kicking his head in like a football, just booting it. And it was just, his head was just going backwards and forwards like this. And he was spinning around and around in a circle, and they was just kicking and kicking and kicking him. And then they just left him there.
This footage, filmed by a local resident, shows paramedics trying to save Andre's life.
And then everybody started to come to aid him, and they were saying that he was talking, "Can you get my mum? I want my mum." And asking for water, which is obviously a sign of a collapsed lung. And everybody did what they could to save him, but he had 2 cardiac arrests. So even at the end, he probably knew he was in a bad way, still calling for me, get my mum, like he always did. The whole incident, the whole death haunts me every day.
In the weeks leading up to the murder, the feuding on social media between Andre's group of friends called Money Habits and the Shrubland Boys had reached fever pitch.
You got for them. Well, listen, yeah, tell Monk Hill and the rest of them, yeah, money habits, shanking habits, yeah, watch.
This is most likely one of the weapons used to kill Andre. Ali Zahawi was one of the 3 people from the Shrubland Boys convicted of his murder.
Today I'm taking Ali the clothes because he has one opportunity in a year to get his clothing purchased and taken to him.
Dunya is Ali Zahawi's mother. Ali is now serving a 22-year sentence in prison.
It's not an easy thing to deal with, having your son in prison for many, many years. I wish I could have done something about it. I take responsibility for any part that I went wrong because he's my son and I'm his mother. It's only when he reached the age of 18 to 20, that's when things start to get really out of shape and worrying. He was out of education, out of employment, and he became a dad at a young age. He felt like he's helpless. But the real struggle and the real challenge which led to this tragedy was when he became friend with a new group of young people, and that's where things started to go seriously wrong. These 3 young people have been having a problem with another group of young people, and then when Ali became their friend, he became part of the problem. So from the day they started to become friends to the day where the tragedy happened, it took 2.5 months. That's how quick things went.
Today, Dunya lives less than half a mile away from Yemi and her family.
It's very painful because end of the day, I am a mom. And if this is the pain I'm going through, the mother who lost his son, she's not having this opportunity. It just gives me the feeling of being so ashamed. And anytime I see her, I just wish that I do anything for her that gives her relief, even if it's for 1 minute. Because no mother should be experiencing this. From the day when he got arrested, life really becomes meaningless. Happiness is not there anymore. It's a huge amount of conflict.
For young gang members on the road today, violence, revenge, and retribution are a way of life. And they say that carrying a weapon is a necessity.
I think I want my mum to be crying saying she lost her son, so obviously she put in your pocket, you're a pagan, innit? Obviously have it with us for our safety, you get me, so there's going to be no fear at all. It's necessary to carry weapons on the street because people who was gonna harm you, do something to you. I'm trying to say, like, my thing, like, yeah, it's normal, fam. I don't have this in it. I can't live without this, cause it's normal, man.
With weapons and the culture of using them now prevalent on the streets, it's not just gang members who are paying the price.
I'm putting up the murder posters for witness appeal from the Metropolitan Police, so I'm hoping that we could jog people's memories and maybe get a witness to come forward to help us to solve my son's murder.
In February 2017, Michelle's son JJ was an innocent victim of gang violence and was stabbed to death in Islington, North London.
He went on a night out in Upper Street in Islington, and then he witnessed 6 people come up and surround a car and stab someone. And I believe that my son went forward to give help to that person because he was known to him. And they stabbed my son in the heart.
This CCTV footage shows the gang moments before and after JJ's murder. Witnesses are scared to come forward, fearing for their lives. And as a result, no one has yet been arrested for the killing.
I knew the gang that came that night would go undercover and go quiet, and that wall of silence would go up.
I'm angry still because a lot of people know what's happened to my son and they're not coming forward and talking about it. I have to keep trying and keep pushing to see what we can do to help this investigation. And I can't sit back and do nothing because it's very important for me to get justice for my son.
Even the people on the street know who killed my son are not cooperating with the police because they're worried about being called a snitch or they're worried about what will happen to them.
I've lived and worked in Islington for 90% of my life. Always felt safe. Don't feel safe now. And you hear on a daily basis now that people are being attacked and knife crime is a part of it.
If someone chooses to be in a gang, they're choosing a lifestyle. My son never chose that lifestyle. They took my son's life. They took it. I've lost my baby. He was my only child. And they didn't just take my heart. They ripped my umbilical cord out of me as well. They've taken everything that life was for. And now I just feel, why am I here? There's no purpose anymore for me. The purpose of my life was to take care of my child, and I feel I failed him.
It's not just in London that young people are dying from gang violence. Hanif Mohammed is a former gangster known for his acts of violence on the streets of Sheffield.
I was a thug. I had over 25 convictions. I had a really bad reputation. So I lived outside the law, and if you have an issue, what do? Do you tell somebody? Absolutely not. You deal with it yourself.
In a revenge-fueled attack over a local dispute, Hanif stabbed to death an armed rival. He was sent to prison and served 10 years for manslaughter.
Initially, I remember I was a street kid, so my mentality were, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. There was no mercy, there was no remorse initially, because I was still in that space, still in the mindset of understanding that this guy was an enemy. Sit down, darling. Sit down. Bums on seats, please. Sit down. Having kids is priceless, really, because I had a lot of anxiety, I'll be totally honest with you, because I thought, I've done a lot of bad things in my life. I don't deserve all this. I got my demons that I'm battling with for the crime that I committed, because not a single night goes by where I don't think about my victim too. And now I look at my son and I think, imagine someone took his life, imagine someone took my life. That's how I look at it. How I was then was like these young ones now, where we didn't give a fuck, consumed by anger, hatred, you know, all this negativity.
For Hanif, the consequences of his actions have been long-lasting and destroyed his victim's family, and also devastated his own.
I can't put into words what my parents thought of me back then. You know, when I committed that crime, and they were ashamed, they were disgusted. I think, to be completely honest with you, my mum was in a state of denial. And I said, Mum, I had to sit her down one day. I said, Mum, I got to break it down, you know, this is going to hurt you. But I orchestrated it and I executed it. It was my shit. Do you know what I mean? Your son did this, it wasn't them. I'm not going to scapegoat nobody, you know?
What can you say to a 15-year-old boy now that is taking a knife to school every day because he feels like that's the right thing to do?
Knife crime affected my life. It turned my life upside down. I believe it's my duty now to send this message to all the young people.
Since her son Ali was convicted of murder, Dunya has been seeking to make amends for her son's crime by working with charities aiming to stop gang violence and knife crime.
Why I'm doing this, I'm not looking for sympathy or empathy. I need to tell my story so parents look out for signs and do something. And it's the ordinary people who need to come together to put an end to this.
My son wouldn't kill a spider. I don't know how he became a knife carrier. He wasn't a knife carrier. And he wasn't.
Since speaking out publicly on radio about her situation, Dunya has received a large amount of negative backlash.
It was on Twitter and Facebook. I think it was about 122 comments, something like that. And almost all of them are negative. You must be so proud, love. You are part of the problem. Rot in hell, you piece of crap. These comments keeps me awake at night. When I'm trying to give explanations of what happened, how it happened, how can we avoid this, it gets interpreted as a mother coming up with excuses for her son's crime. And that's exactly not what I'm doing. The perpetrator's side of the story needs to be told because they know why things can go wrong. That's why I'm putting myself out there. You're going to accuse me, you're going to call me names, you're going to blame me, and I'm accepting that because the purpose is much higher. Things went wrong. I take responsibility. If you blame me, I take responsibility. But there's more into it. If you keep on blaming me, nothing is going to change out there.
I don't like being in a position that makes me feel scared and threatened. I don't like that. But when I have my life, I feel like I'm Superman. When you got your life, you don't have no fear, because at the end of the day, I know I'm going to die if I don't carry my on.
Much of UK gang culture has been influenced by America. The notorious feud between the Los Angeles gangs, the Bloods and the Crips, is often cited as the beginning of modern gang warfare as we know it.
If a homie get killed by somebody from another gang or whatever, straight up, that's it, that's all. We finna go handle that. You know, you killed the homie, we finna go knock one of you niggas off.
Better be caught with it than caught without it. Kill, kill, kill. I'm going to get my man.
His birthday is June 4th, and I get out here so I can pay respects.
Former police officer Stinson Brown has witnessed firsthand the shocking gang violence on LA's streets. In 2009, his son unwittingly got caught in the crossfire of warring gangs and was killed.
When I come out here, it takes you back, it opens up that wound, and as a parent, you'll always blame yourself for the passing of your children. It's never their fault, it's always your fault. What could I have done that was better?
The night of his son's murder will forever be ingrained on his memory.
About 6:30 in the morning on the dot, my doorbell rang. It wasn't my son, it was the detectives. Well, now I know something's wrong. They said, Stinson, do you have a son named Stinson? Amir Brown said, yes, I do. They says, well, do you know he went to a party last night? I says, well, no, he's 21. He's entitled to go to a party. They said, well, Stinson, your son was shot, and he didn't make it. Now, understand with that pause. Your son was shot. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what hospital I got to go to? But when he said he didn't make it, man, everything in me went to the floor. I was empty. I was confused. Yeah, did I feel hatred? Yeah, I felt hatred, but I was confused. On different various levels. I had an opportunity to cut up, to see blood for blood on the streets, to live a life of a vigilante. It would have been understood, me being a police officer, me being the man who I am, to go out and say somebody's got to pay. I don't care who, somebody. This is a club that I don't wish on nobody. But particularly when you bury your kids, I don't wish that on nobody, man. Not my worst enemy. There's other things you can suffer from, but not that.
For many gang members across the UK, losing a friend in a revenge attack is becoming all too commonplace.
I've lost loads of people from this, whatever you want to call it, lethal war, gang violence, gangland, whatever you want to call it. It's hard.
This lifestyle is not fun, it's not games. You know, I've lost people to this lifestyle at a young age. And I know tomorrow I can lose my life. I know tomorrow my friend can lose his life. So tomorrow I might not be here.
It's like when a Monopoly board is part of the chance. You roll the dice, if you win, you win. If you don't, then you peak.
As you can see, this is someone that's just moved into a house. It's madness, really. Absolute madness.
9 months after her son JJ was murdered by a London gang, Michelle is still trying to come to terms with her grief. She has decided to move out of London and away from the shadow of gang violence that hangs over the capital.
This is JJ's stuff, paperwork mainly. This was given to me the day my son died. The criminal justice system. Coping with grief when someone close to you has been killed. That's as much help as I got. I've got nothing nice to say about victim support because they haven't been supportive at all. They offered me counselling, but said that I would have to wait 6 months. Well, my son had already been dead 4 months. So I just told them not to bother because it makes you feel like that, unfortunately. I went to victim support. They sent me a voucher for £50 for Tesco's. And that's what I received from victim support. It's not what I needed. What I needed was some help. And I don't know what help I need. I've never lost my child before, and I've never had somebody murdered in my family before. So how do I know what help I need? I still don't feel I should have my son's stuff packed up like this. His stuff should be hanging in a wardrobe, waiting for him to come and wear it. So it should. Oh, I said, I fell out. I can't do nothing like that. Shit, innit? Absolute shit. Shouldn't be like this. I've moved to a house which was going to be a family home. And I haven't got my family anymore. My family's gone. And especially when it was so brutally done for no reason. No one can find a reason why my son was murdered. None.
With the gang who killed JJ yet to be brought to justice, thoughts of retribution are never far from Michelle's mind.
I could pick up a knife and walk around going, I'm going to start killing people because somebody killed my son. But I know right from wrong, and I know that's not going to achieve anything in the long run. What I need to happen is for people to pay justice, and someone needs to pay for murdering my son. I feel very angry that they're still alive because they're the people that went out and did wrong. Even if they give him life for life, even if he gets the death penalty, it still wouldn't be justice. The justice for me would have been my son being allowed to finish his life. No one can ever give me back that. No one.
Look, one of us there, we know our parents ain't gonna do nothing. They're not gonna go out there and grab a gun and shoot someone for us or you know, get revenge, retaliate in any way. They can't. It's impossible. So we ride out for each other. We ride out for our family, the way we do.
In Sheffield, former gangster Hanif Mohammed is still coming to terms with the lasting impact of a violent act of retribution.
So where I'm about to go now is the edge of my exclusion zone. So basically, if I were to cross another few feet into that, technically, I could go straight back to prison.
Having served 10 years in jail for manslaughter, he is now out on parole and forbidden to return to parts of his hometown.
I feel like I'm banished from my home, but understandably so. It's justified, absolutely. And there's a reason for it and all, you know. It's about respecting the victim's family. How would they feel? They'll feel justice ain't done. So, you know.
At the time of the death, both Hanif and the victim were local rivals who became embroiled in a dispute.
I've got absolutely no animosity towards him, hatred or anger. Now it's replaced by regret, a sense of humbleness, a sense of, I fucked up, man. What can I do? What can I do to change it? I can't do anything. And I'm trying to fill a void in my life, and that void is the remorse, the regret, the guilt. It's something that I did on my own, and I have to carry that burden. At the end of the day, I deserve everything I got. And to be completely honest with you, if I had been the judge, I would have given myself more. You know, I don't feel 10 years is long enough to take somebody's life. One thing I can't do is compensate for that error.
In an attempt to break the cycle of hatred and revenge, Hanif contacted his victim's family through his probation officer, hoping this would be the first step on the road to forgiveness.
Unfortunately, it's something that they weren't interested in, which I have to respect, obviously. They weren't prepared to engage with me, so it is what it is. But I left myself open, and to be honest with you, deep down inside, I'm kind of glad, because that would have been the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Looking into the eye of the person who's, you know, I've took their kid away from him.
When I come here, this is a time to reflect. This is a time to take account of my life, the 57 years that God has allowed me to be on this planet.
In Los Angeles, following his son's murder, Stinson Brown found himself at a crossroads.
No parent ever should have to bury their own children. I had to make a decision. Do I seek retribution, or do I start taking a path and the steps towards forgiveness? I don't need to walk through life being bitter and angry and wanting to, you know, cause harm to other human beings. God is the one that will repay, and it's in his word. So I sought forgiveness. I said, so as a Christian and as a true believer in God and Jesus Christ, I want to forgive Pierre White, who was the name of the defendant, for murdering my son. I can't go on living life with hatred in my heart and a cloak of hatred around my neck. I gotta let it go, here and now.
In London, when violence escalates and someone dies, forgiveness is not an option for gang members.
Pressure and the anger, my brethren's gone. That was my close guy, he's gone. The only thing that goes through your mind is kill. I lost a couple people to knife crime and that. A couple men that I know being shot and that. Obviously, your man's pissed in it, that losing a brother, like that's pain, fam, it's rage, fam. Obviously, your man was to bang out and that, innit?
Forgiveness, that's an emotion. We don't deal with emotions. It makes us weak, it makes us look like we're surrendered, we're giving up. Now, if I give up in one occasion and other people hear about it, they're going to think we're weak. They're going to want forgiveness too. We don't do forgiveness.
Hi. How are you? I'm fine, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
As a part of her journey to understand the impact of her son's actions, Dunya has agreed to meet with a mum whose child has died as a result of gang violence. Kwamari Barnes was 15 when he was stabbed to death outside his school gates. In an act of revenge, his killer took the teenager's life, mistakenly believing him to be part of a local gang known as the 365, who had physically attacked and then taunted Kwamari's killer on Instagram.
I wanted to talk to you face to face and to get your story from you. But I do feel that there is also a lot of parents that do need to be accountable. If their kids are getting up to mischief or they're not coming home on time, you as a parent have to step in and take the right measures to safeguard your kids.
In my son's case, and when often I talk about this, I get criticized a lot for it. But honest to God, this is a reality. My son wouldn't kill a spider. So it's the same question of why, what is happening inside of their mind to make such a huge mistake.
Did your son take responsibility for what he did in terms of what happened?
It's a vague situation, Lillian. He's been convicted, and what I'm saying is not going to change anything.
No. I'm just asking because for me, part of rehabilitation starts from when someone can take responsibility, regardless.
Of course.
So how does he feel now, a year and 5 months down the line?
Still in the shocking atmosphere of, is this real? And why it happened. I didn't have anything to do with this. And he is very upset for the mother of the young person. And the whole understanding, you know, when you come to realize that what you were thinking was wrong.
Has he come to that stage?
He is. I don't know how complete is that.
Thank you for being honest.
I don't know how complete is that, but
for me, rehabilitation starts from him and his acceptance of what he's done. Whereas if someone's just going to feel sorry for the situation that they've landed themselves in, it's a completely different thing from feeling sorry for what they have done.
Fuck that, I'm just one. Fucking too much.
On the streets of the UK, when gang violence erupts and someone dies, the strict code by which gang members live overrules everything.
Forgiveness is not an option. Why? Because you've done stuff to them. They want you dead. So you can't forgive. You need to get them before they get you.
I mean, how do you forgive someone who's taken a life from you? On the other hand, now you've got the person who's done the murder, he'll still be living his life, he might be in jail or whatever. You can still see his kids, his family. Now that's not fair to me, because my friend's gone, my brother's gone. So you tell me, how do I forgive that? It's just not in our world to do that.
The brutality of gang activities destroys the normal lives of families. Yemi's son Andre was murdered following a feud with a local gang. Dunya is the mother of Ali Sahawi, one of those convicted of Andre's murder. Having lived in the same area and passed each other on the streets many times, Dunya and Yemi have finally agreed to meet live on air to try and find a way forward.
Yemi, when you see Dunya, what do you see? Who do you see?
I see Ali's mum. She's the mother of somebody that killed my child. She's also a human being.
She's your friend?
She's not my friend, no. You know, we're two people fighting for the same cause.
And Dunya, when you see Yemi, what do you see? Who do you see?
I see a heartbroken mum who shouldn't go through what she went through. And I was so desperate to speak to her just to explain that I don't know what happened exactly. And end of the day, I am very sorry.
Yes. All right.
That was a very important step to take because I needed to see this lady and I needed to speak to her. It was something I wanted to do when I was seeing her in the Old Bailey to apologize to her and express what I feel.
Dunya she didn't kill my child.
No.
So even when she said to me, you know, I apologize, you know, I want to apologize to you for, I said to her, you do not need to apologize to me because this is not what you've done. Yeah. You know, your son made his own choices, you know, like young people do. They're making the choice, good or bad. And they need to take responsibility for what's going on. Some days I feel angry, very angry. Some days I feel nothing. You killed my child, that's it. There's no explanation for that. There's no reason why you did what you did. There's none. And there's nothing they could say that would make me think, oh, okay, all right, maybe I can sympathise or understand why you did what you did, you know. There's no reason. None.
Today we come together to remember before God our brother JJ, to give thanks for his life.
1 year after the murder of her son by a local gang, Michelle has arranged a remembrance service for him at a local church.
JJ, the one who put a smile on your face, the man that always lit up the place. Light up the path that your little girls walk and give your mum the strength when she needs to talk. Help her win this battle that you never started against these cowards that left us all broken-hearted. Light up the court for the jury to see that people using knives should never walk free.
With witnesses still refusing to speak out for fear of their lives, no one has yet stood trial for JJ's murder.
If you're in a gang and if you do know someone that's murdered someone, by being quiet, you're making them into a hero who thinks he can use a knife at every argument. So how do you know you're not his next target? Gang members know they're not worried about what happens to us because it doesn't immediately affect them. We need to take away their power.
The endless road beefs and tit-for-tat violence mean that there is little end in sight to gang warfare.
Forgiveness, it can only change so much. The truth is, it's a vicious cycle. It's going to go on for generations. My kids are going to have problems with your kids. So it's one of those things that never ends. It's going to keep going around and around.
And for gang members today, there is no way out of this cycle of revenge.
What does it feel like to be stabbed? What happens when you die? Obviously, all these thoughts come to your head because you see everybody else dying around you. It could happen to anyone. It could be next, for all you know.
Navigating his way through a dangerous criminal underworld, Jason Statham's on the run in our late-night thriller here on Channel 5. Stay right there for Hummingbird, our movie, coming up next.